Well, Mike, I do appreciate you joining us. This is my favorite offseason since I've been in town for the Patriots because it's the most exciting, in my opinion. And I actually like what they're doing. What do you make of Jerod Mayo's comments? He's been criticized by some. They say he went against his prior statements that he was making statements about how they were going to spend this and they were going to do all these improvements to the team. Some people, I'm not one of them, but some people feel that he kind of is walking back on his prior word. How do you read that situation?
Well, so a couple things, Fred. I mean, first, I think he acknowledged, his comment about burning some cash. His words, that was terrible. He said that. So, I mean, start with just what, he made a misstep, which he said, I'm a first-year head coach. I'm going to make some missteps. I guess I look at it from a standpoint of 24 years of, covering Bill Belichick, which was, I look at it as a privilege and a pleasure. But, he handled it a lot differently. And I think that's the main thing, guys. Like, this is the absolute opposite extreme of he might actually be telling us too much. And I can't fault him for it because as a reporter covering the team, like, I want to know I'm looking for the information to relay to the fans of the team. And I think ultimately we'll probably find a healthy balance here. But I think part of what everyone's experiencing is this is like the other end of the pendulum from what we've been living the last 24 years.
Yeah, I wonder if sometimes when he's speaking, though, he speaks with like an authority on things like the picks and the direction, if he's doing it with full confidence that he has that much say in the matter. And I know he's speaking for the organization, and that's the position he's put in these moments. But there are a couple of times when he was talking about, what they're going to do and, what they might decide. And I wonder, is it really in your control at all? I'm sure they give him a say on some of these things, but, the way it's structured right now, I wouldn't even fault the Patriots if they said, oh, no, we'll assemble the team and then you just worry about coaching it.
Yeah. And Hardy, I actually think that's true. Like what you said is true. Elliot is going to make the call.
Right.
What they hope is that when they get to that point, that they're all on board. And I actually think, because what you don't want to do as a personnel staff, if you're Elliot Wolf, is give the coaching staff a player that they don't want or they're not excited about, because you're almost going to write the story before the guy even gets here. Usually that's not going to work out. So look, they're figuring it out. And I'll tell you, I think one really interesting thing that I thought he said yesterday to me was that they can actually start their voluntary offseason program April 1st, but they're not doing it until April 8th. And when he explained why, guys, it was twofold to me. One, he's basically telling you, like, they're trying to catch up. Like, they're not ready to do it April 1st because they have so much ground that they need to catch up on. But two, and I actually thought this was encouraging from a standpoint of trying, what they're trying to do is he wants to make sure they don't send mixed messages to the players. So he's going to take that first week to make sure that all the coaches are operating on the same page. So
which is
it was good insight.
A commentary on what happened last year too. I mean, we found out, toward the end of last year, and when stories were coming out that that was an issue among the coaches, and it had to have been among the players too. That it was this, a big mess in terms of not all being on the same page, and guys not being able to pick their own coordinators, and even coordinators not being able to pick their own staff. So it sounds like they're trying to get out in front of it this time. Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know if I was supposed to come in on that, but Hardy, on this, like, I think it is fair to be critical, but I also think, like, giving him a chance to just establish something, you give him a little space to establish something, because he's even telling us, like, I am going to make some mistakes.
Yeah.
As a first-time head coach. I mean, we literally sat at the table yesterday, and he's like, we're in the honeymoon phase right now. You guys are tossing me softballs. And I thought to myself, well, let me think of some arrows I can start slinging at you if that's the way we're going to talk here, and really on that line, like I look at like, why am I here? Trying to get information for people who follow the team so they know what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. And what I come away with, if I had to drill down on it, is I do think they're narrowing in on the quarterback at 3. Which one? I think they like Drake May. I think he made that clear yesterday. I think they're still gathering some intel on Jaden Daniels. They're going to go to his pro day Wednesday. Jerod's going to be there. So we'll see what that looks like. Sounds like J.J. McCarthy is shooting up as a possibility for the teams in the range where the Patriots are picking. So that was one thing I personally took away from it, even though JJ's name didn't, specifically come up in the conversation. And that they didn't think this was a deep offensive free agent class. I thought that was an interesting comment from Mayo.
How do you've covered this team forever. How do you feel about this drastic change in operation, keeping, retaining your own free agents? I mean, I've seen grades. I liked what they did in the offseason, and I've seen national writers, grading their offseason as being very productive. And what's your read on the guys they kept? Are they character guys? Is this to build a culture? What's your read on what they did in free agency?
Well, Fred, I felt really good about the last time we were together doing an interview, because I think our last interview set the stage for what they did. You and me talked about re-signing their own guys, if you remember that. And we talked about they needed to get back to doing that. And so I think we set the stage well for saying that was where it was going to start. Calvin Ridley they wanted because they realized they have a huge hole at receiver. He didn't want to come here. Now they could have kept upping their offer, and then it's just a question of, do you want to pay, just call it $1 million for the house when it's really worth whatever, $600,000.
Plus, he's no guarantee. He's injured and has gambling stuff, and he's 29, and I don't even know if he's number one receiver. It just is that the guy, to echo your point, is that the guy you want to overpay for?
And you can argue that you can overpay him. I would push back on that, just me personally, and say usually when you overpay a guy that doesn't necessarily want to be there, that's not the best dynamic, in your first off season. So to me, was it perfect? Absolutely not. Do they have major holes at quarterback, left tackle, and wide receiver? Absolutely. I just don't. I didn't see much opportunity for them to fill those. Look at what the Jets are doing. Like if they went after the left tackle from Dallas, the receiver from the Chargers. I mean, those are short-term things that are no guarantee.
No,
right?
You can't do that. Do you think there's a chance finally, Mike, and then I'll let you go to go about your business? Do you think, we do appreciate you joining us, is there a chance if they take Drake May, you think that they could sit him for a season or for part of the season? Do you think maybe part of the plan?
So I do think that's possible. I think that's why they have Jacoby Brissett. If listening to Mayo yesterday, he called Brissett, he thinks he's a capable starter and a great mentor. So to me, that's part of their vision. And it sounds like, but I don't think they'll come out and I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't put that too far ahead, but that might be wise, to say, hey, we're not going to rush him in. But if Drake May comes in, and you have a meritocracy, and he shows that he's the best quarterback that gives you the best chance to win, you play him on day one.
Sure.
So maybe you don't. Fred, what I'm thinking is you don't need to declare that right away.
Right.
But you've set up a system where you can do that if you think it's the best thing to do.
All right, excellent stuff, Mike. Enjoy your time, rubbing elbows before you have to go back to the Knights Inn. Enjoy the Ritz-Carlton while you can.
But you should get some of the premium mini cereal boxes while you're there and take those back.
Yes,
I love it, Hardy. Hardy, before I go, Hardy, I don't want to bump into a commercial for you guys. I mean, are you down on this, Hardy? Like, I was trying to get a sense of where you're at from listening to Mayo.
Am I down on what?
On Mayo and the new regime and how he's handling everything.
Oh yeah, I think he's presenting himself very well, and he seems to be saying all the right things. And I love that he actually will speak to you guys and give you something. But the fact of the matter is, you can have all the great feelings in the world you want. He's never done it. He's never been a head coach.
Yeah.
So we can have all the feel all the positivity in the world when it comes down to it and actually coaching in game. And these are the things that, me especially, a guy who is plenty critical of Belichick for the way he handled things personally and the way, I think he did a lot of stuff. The in-game coaching is the thing that was easy to just take for granted for 20 years around here. He was phenomenal. And now you've got somebody who's literally never done it before. So, sure, I like him. What's not to like? We'll see how much we like it once you actually have to do the job for 60 minutes on Sundays. And opinions might change drastically based on how that goes.
And I think that's I think that's sort of a good sum up of it, Hardy, because the way I sort of assess it is they lost a PhD level of coaching excellence in Belichick, and they have an unknown right now in that area with Mayo and this staff. What they're hoping is that this improved, they're trying a different culture, right? More relational based,
right?
That they're hoping that can sort of help maybe bridge the gap there. And I think that to me is just sort of getting around the team, listening to what Mayo says, and just sort of a feel. And that's where that sort of sums it up to me.
And that's all wonderful. It makes you feel great Monday through Saturday, but on Sunday, is there going to be a problem like managing the clock when you get down to 2 minutes? Are you going to be using timeouts the right way? And
that's right.
And look, Belichick wasn't infallible, but you did have to kind of nitpick at times to figure out what went wrong in terms of the game management when you're trying to be critical of Belichick. You had to, get in the weeds a little bit. If you wanted to find something he did wrong. There might be plenty wrong going on for a first-year guy, and we'll see how much that goodwill extends.
That's right. And even he said yesterday, guys, am I going to be a great head coach? I don't know. I think I am, And so even he's acknowledging like this great unknown. And I want to leave you with one thing before we go. Later this morning, around 8:30ish, reporters, hopefully with Robert Kraft. So I'm hoping we can come back with some answers for the fans and for you guys on, some of the things surrounding the team that, we don't get often a chance to ask questions. So hopefully we do a good job representing, try to get some answers from the owner. So that's coming up in the next couple hours.
Well, we saw Dynasty, so I mean and it would be nice to hear Robert Kraft's perspective on things.
Yeah, I have a couple of follow-ups from Dynasty. The questions I don't know were asked of Robert. If you could throw those in there, I'll text them to you, Mike.
Yeah,
text them to me, Hardy. And I will tell you, if my instincts are right on that, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually shares that he was disappointed in the way that came out. But we'll see. Okay. We'll see what that sounds like.
All right. Mike Reiss is down at the meetings. You can read him at ESPN.